Rage 2 is looking like a really good FPS with lots of character, energy, and a really developed arsenal and movement set, on top of an inviting world with a developed style. This is pretty much everything the first Rage didn't have. The renewal of the Rage IP with this new release was baffling to myself. I was willing to bet money that this was a mistake, feeling so confident that there was little to no market or grounds to make a sequel to id Software's most controversial release, being the last title released before remaining co-founder John Carmack left the company to join Oculus. Criticized for a bland world, a lack of direction, and promises of an open world without the tech to back it up, as well as extremely toned back movement mechanics compared to id's past library. In many ways, it was seen as a shedding of identity for the company that resorted to chasing popular trends in the gaming landscape instead of pioneering them. While it wasn't a bad game per se, it was pretty unremarkable in most aspects aside from the powerful and unique, yet ultimately controversial tech behind it that only lasted a shelf life of about 4 releases. Running on id Tech 5, there was also a near-complete lack of fervor in the modding scene for the game. Despite modding tools and an SDK being readily available for the game, its megatexture system proved so hard to wrangle that few bothered to attempt it, and to this day I've only ever found one working mod for the game that added any new areas or content. Compared to id Software's long and important history in the modding scene, as well as many companies licensing its tech over the years, this was kind of jaw-dropping to see such a shift with the turn of one release. Rage was such a departure from id's DNA that it really felt like the company had somewhat lost its identity itself, one that would have persisted into the next console generation if it wasn't for a rapid restructuring in the process of scrapping their next major release. Doom 4, as it was originally called, made it considerably far into development before the project was completely scrapped and built from the ground up into the game we know today as Doom 2016. Originally running on id Tech 5, it's easy to see from leaked beta footage how much of Rage's DNA persisted into that project, and how it would ultimately be its undoing. Since then, id is having what can only be described as a renaissance, with the major success of Doom 2016, the success of the completely overhauled Wolfenstein series, and although it never found its player base, there's even a lot to love about Quake Champions. Doom Eternal is also set to launch in the next year or so, hopefully, and there's both a co-op and VR Wolfenstein game around the corner. So Rage 2, being a direct sequel to the original, comes off as a bit of a strange contender when launching alongside its sister series that have more or less been completely rebooted. Despite the fact that it looks like a phenomenal game in its own right, there's a part of me that feels like making it a sequel to such a lukewarm game most people have forgotten about could potentially reduce the scope of its success. Even in this interview, they open with a pretty telling statement.
So a lot of times people ask us, well, I haven't played Rage 1, do I need to play that before Rage 2? No. We purposely set Rage 2 far enough away from the original to stand on its own.
In a lot of ways, it's a bit like the inverse of the Prey situation. That game was piggybacking off a name people recognized and loved, in which the original game was a huge success for the time, and had an incredibly strong identity, with this not actually a reboot being completely unrelated, feeling like it sacrificed its sense of clear identity somewhere in the process, as well as making its marketing launch with a flurry of confusion from fans and would-be buyers. In the case of Rage 2, it's a related game to a brand no one really remembers all too well because it lacked a true identity that aims to inject a clear sense of style and direction to a stale-based property. Curiously enough though, these are both games and properties owned by Bethesda, a company which has overall had an incredibly hit-or-miss track record the past few years. The release, reception, and execution of Rage 2 is a space to watch, and it'll be intriguing to see what we can learn from how it all pans out. Thankfully, the game looks awesome, and another great game under id's umbrella, as well as more work from Avalanche Studios, which will be a win in my books either way. Let me know in the comments below if you're excited for Rage 2, and feel free to give your opinions of the first game too. Until then, I'm gonna go eat beans from a rusty tin, or whatever wastelanders do. Bye bye.